Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to News Dose. So I think it's time that we go ahead and kind of throw away that statement of Xbox has quote-unquote no games. While it might have been a funny term last generation for the Xbox One, it is becoming more and more clear that that just is no longer the case. They have put together quite a few building blocks for the Xbox series, and it is already paying off in a big way. In fact, it was just now confirmed today that in terms of critical reception, the Xbox just had the best, not one of the best year ever for any publisher. Yes, they did something that no other publisher has ever done in the history of games, so we're going to talk about that one today. Now, we do also have yet another delay to talk about today, this time being for the Nintendo Switch. Not everybody necessarily universally agrees with the decision here, but Nintendo is trying to do the right thing, and I'll kind of explain why here in just a little bit. First, though, we are going to get started off today with a new release date for an upcoming AAA title that I know a lot of fans have been looking forward to, and that would be Gotham Knights. It is now official. Gotham Knights is set to release on October 25th. And so far, this game has looked pretty good. We've seen some gameplay of it in the past, and you're able to play as 4 playable characters, including Nightwing, Batgirl, Robin, and Red Hood. So, I mean, if you like DC at all, this is probably a very exciting game that will be releasing this year. Now, I will say that October and November is starting to look increasingly busy, though. This really typically happens every single year with these publishers trying to pack all of their big AAA games into those holiday months, but right now, just for October and November, the games that we are looking at so far would be Forspoken, that was delayed to October 11th. Then you have Gotham Knights releasing on October 25th. Starfield, that comes out just a couple weeks later on November 11th. And then obviously you're going to have Call of Duty somewhere in those months as well. So yeah, it's going to be a pretty busy October and November this year. And you know, that really is the thing, because I'm sure there's going to be plenty of surprises for October, November, and December as well. Next up, though, we're going to talk a little bit about Nintendo here for a moment, as they did announce another Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack game. Yeah, I still don't like that name, but nonetheless, they did announce F-Zero X will be heading over to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack starting March 11th. And really, this is a franchise that, I mean, fans have been asking to return for years and years, and while technically this is not a brand new game or anything like that, we're still hoping for a new F-Zero game, of course, but at the same time, this is still a really cool release. And not just because you're able to play F-Zero X on the Nintendo Switch, but also because it is going to come with that online component. That is one of the big selling points for Nintendo Switch Online. They're able to bring back some of these older games and then also have that online component, which I think is a perfect fit for F-Zero X. Actually, some of my most fond memories as a child was playing multiplayer games on the Nintendo 64 with my family. My family and I would do this quite a bit, and we always had a blast. And that's the thing, because I feel like the Nintendo 64, it has a surprisingly good library of games that has that multiplayer component. The problem always was, though, is that we didn't really have the same luxury as gamers do today. We didn't have that online component where we could just play these games anytime we wanted, but rather we were a little bit more limited. So it is nice to see Nintendo bring back some of these games with that online component. And I think in a situation with F-Zero, I just feel like it's a perfect fit, because even though F-Zero X isn't necessarily the brand new entry for the franchise that a lot of fans want to see, I think that that online component will give it a little bit of a facelift and a new dynamic that will be really fun to explore. Now, all of these years later, you can finally put your skills to the test against other people online. I really like that, and this is just one of the cool things about Switch Online. And again, with the Nintendo 64 library, there's several games that does have a good multiplayer, so I'd like to see some other games such as Jet Force Gemini, Diddy Kong Racing. You also have GoldenEye. All 3 of these games have pretty good multiplayer, and I do understand that all of these are Rareware games, but I also know that Nintendo and Xbox, they have a pretty good relationship right now, so I wouldn't be overly surprised if we get something like these games as well in the future. Nonetheless, though, F-Zero X will be out on Switch Online Plus expansion pack on March 11th. All right, so we do have some interesting or maybe even surprising Xbox news for some fans out there. Now, I personally do not think that this is all that surprising, and I think that if you've been following the channel for a while, you probably are not going to find this all that surprising either, because for the last couple of years, I have really said that Xbox has a very, very bright future. I think that if you have been paying attention to what's been happening in recent years and you're just not willingly ignoring it, then it's probably been pretty easy to see that Xbox is going to have a much better generation for the Xbox Series than what it had with the Xbox One. They absolutely are in their prime right now, as they have acquired a lot of talent in recent years, and it is very much starting to pay off. Now, this is according to Metacritic, which just revealed the Publisher of the Year for 2021, where they show the best average score per publisher. And not only did Xbox come in first place, but it was also the best year ever for any publisher in terms of average score, with an 87.4. Now, that is impressive considering that no other publisher has ever broke 85 in a single year. So Xbox had a very, very good year in terms of quality. They did this by releasing games like Forza Horizon 5, Psychonauts 2, Flight Simulator, and then also Halo Infinite. All of these games did review very well, and multiple of those games were actually listed as Game of the Year candidates. So again, they had a very, very good year. Now, I want to be very clear about this. I am not saying that Xbox just had the best year of all time, but rather this is strictly talking about critical reception and average scores, which they did rank #1 of all time. And ultimately, what that just goes to show you is that they did release several high-quality games consistently last year in 2021. That is really what this is stating. And what is kind of scary about this is that if you take a look at the entire list of publishers here, Xbox has a few partners here that ranked pretty high as well. You had Activision Blizzard, which is in the process of being acquired by Microsoft. They were ranked at #4, and then you have Bethesda, which has already been acquired by Xbox, and they were ranked at #5. So they are putting out some pretty high quality games as well, and that just kind of goes to show you the type of firepower that Xbox will have this generation. I think it's just become so clear by this point, and unless you're just willingly ignoring it, or you're just participating in the console wars and just saying, oh, they have no games, it's just not true. It is very clear that this generation, all three of the big three are going to be competitive, and that's exactly what you want to see. I always say it, but competition breeds excellence. You don't necessarily have to like all three, and that is perfectly fine. I'm never going to try to convince somebody to like something that they just do not like. But however, it is important to keep in mind that maybe you should root for all three to be at least in a good position, because when that's the situation, then ultimately the gamer is the one that is rewarded, because the better Xbox does, the more Sony is going to try, and the better that they will do, and vice versa with Nintendo as well. That competition, it just makes everybody better. So always keep that in mind, regardless of who you like and who you root for. Now, with that in mind, Sony and Nintendo also had really good years in 2021, and in fact, Sony was the #2 publisher here with an 81.3 average Metacritic score. They did release some good games last year, such as Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, as well as Returnal, and then they also had some re-releases such as Ghost of Tsushima and Death Stranding Director's Cut as well. So they had a strong year in 2021, and that's translating right into 2022 as well, as the beginning of 2022 for the PlayStation has been outstanding, with games like Horizon Forbidden West and Gran Turismo 7. See, once again, you're just seeing a very competitive environment right now, and everybody is winning. Then you have Nintendo, and while they are a little bit further down the list at #14, they did have some good releases, and they brought games back like Metroid Dread as an example. So, I mean, just regardless of whether you like Nintendo, Xbox, or PlayStation, I think we can all just kind of come together and say, hey, there's a lot of good games releasing regardless of the platform, and you know what? It is just going to be such a fun overall generation. Now, we do have one final topic to talk about, and this one is unfortunate for really multiple situations, and that is with a Nintendo Switch delay being Advance Wars 1+2 Reboot Camp. Advance Wars Reboot Camp was already once delayed. It was originally supposed to release last holiday, but it got delayed to April 8th, just next month, but has now once again been delayed to this time an undefined release date. This is not because of any type of problem with Advance Wars Reboot Camp, but rather this is actually Nintendo trying to make the right moral decision, and that is because of the overall situation that we have seen unfold over the last couple weeks with Ukraine and Russia. Obviously, there's some very important things happening in the world right now. It is just such an overall sad situation that goes well beyond gaming. This impacts a lot of people's lives worldwide, and I mean, there's people dying right now because of this. So this is where Nintendo, they stepped in and said that we're going to try to do the right thing here. We're going to just hold off on this game. We'll come back to it later on. Now, I know that not everybody is going to agree with this decision, and I've seen several takes about it online, and fine, everybody's allowed to have their own opinion, but Nintendo here is trying to make the right call with Advance Wars Reboot Camp. Now, what I will say personally for myself, though, and this channel has never really been geared to talk about this type of stuff. I try to make this type of content as relaxing and enjoyable for you all as possible. But in this situation, I just want to go ahead and reach out and say that my heart goes to all of you all out there that have been impacted by what is currently happening right now. Again, it's just such a sad situation beyond gaming, and I think it's okay to be empathetic rather than just focusing on a delay. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though, and so far it has been a really strong year in terms of game releases. We're already possibly seeing a few different Game of the Year contenders here, so I wanted to ask you all, with the beginning of 2022 being loaded with games, what has been your Game of the Year so far? And it looks like a lot of you all are really liking Elden Ring, with 61% of you voting for Elden Ring, while 14% of you being second place voting for Horizon Forbidden West, then Pokemon Legends Arceus at 12%, and Gran Turismo 7 at just 3%. So yeah, it just once again seems like Elden Ring is blowing everybody's mind. I mean, you're talking about one of the best rated games of all time with a 97 overall score on Metacritic. It is selling an absolute ton. We've already gotten some official numbers over in the UK, and this game is just absolutely fantastic. The critics have spoken. It's one of the best rated games of all time. The fans have spoken. It is selling exceptionally well. And I mean, when you look at those things, and this is despite some of the controversies that has surrounded Elden Ring, there has been that controversy of difficulty settings, but clearly you're seeing that there is a very big crowd that wants a game exactly like Elden Ring. It does appear that at least currently, Elden Ring is the fan favorite for being the Game of the Year of 2022. Now, granted, we're really only in March as of this moment, so a lot of things could still change from now to the end of the year, but I mean, this just kind of shows you just how good the beginning of 2022 has been. We've just had a lot of good games over the last couple months. I mean, the fact that I've been able to play Pokemon Legends Arceus, then Horizon Forbidden West, then Elden Ring back to back to back, that is just mind-blowing to me with that type of quality from game to game to game. As for my personal favorite, though, I don't know if I can really choose just as of this moment. I haven't completed Elden Ring just yet, but I really enjoyed Horizon Forbidden West. I also really enjoyed Pokemon Legends Arceus, and well, I'm really enjoying Elden Ring as well. So it's kind of a toss-up for me right now, but just a great time to be a gamer. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget to bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.